So what was there to learn in the book of Ezra? The book of Ezra is the story of Ezra, the messenger of death. That the second building of the temple in Jerusalem was by the Jews and was built for the deity Allah, as it is mentioned over and over again that the building of that temple was for Allah, and that the house of Allah was dedicated with the killing of people and not animals. That is that it is that Ezra was the one who led the dedication. Ezra is to watch cut off person's head. And this Ezra, or Ezrael, the messenger of death, was the one who led the dedication. And that there was a holocaust of wives to cover up the evil way they were captured and raped to become wives. Remember, the so-called strange wives were not considered Jews, so there was no marriage ceremony, which means the capturing of wives from other tribes was done through kidnapping and rape. And to hide what was done, the women and their children were condemned through Holocaust. That is the real Holocaust denial. Now we look at World War II and what was known as the Holocaust, which if you start actually learning about what Holocaust really is, Holocaust is something that was of the Jews, of the Israelis. It is something they did on a regular and routine basis. It was a sacrifice of what they considered to be their own. So the Holocaust that occurred in World War II, seeing as the Jews insist it was a Holocaust, it means the Jews were behind it. Which, as we know by looking and researching, we can find that Hitler, his name rightfully should have been Adolf Rothschild, not Adolf Hitler, because of his lineage that is believed to come from the Rothschilds. But anyhow, that's a different story for a different day. So what is Holocaust denial? Well, what people, they love to take terms, right, and create a term and then dictate what that term means. This term we're talking about now is Holocaust denier or denial. Now they take the World War II aspect and they say, well, if you deny what had happened, the murder of all them innocent people, then you're a Holocaust denier. Well, I say if you're calling a people a Holocaust denier and you're using the word Holocaust and you don't admit that it was something that was normal amongst the Jews and they had done it and there's evidence throughout the scripture, then you yourself would be a Holocaust denier. If you're covering up all the Holocausts that are in the scriptures, then you are a Holocaust denier. So who is the worst offender in the Holocaust denial? These people that look at the situation of World War II and claim that none of the murders happened there? Or the ones that know the murders happened there, they know why they happened there, they know this scriptural backup that shows that it was regular and routine and it had occurred throughout the entire history of Israel and the Jews and the forefathers of that whole group of people. Who is the worst denier there? In my opinion, it's not the recent history people who are ignorant, who are just pissed off and decide that they're not going to go along with it because they see all the other associated wrongdoing with it. And the associated wrongdoing is the so-called victim mentality, where the Jews that are around today, they use this victim mentality and they use it, for example, for reparations, where the people who are alive today should get some form of payment. Well, who should they be getting the payment from, for first thing? If there's a Holocaust, right, and they're claiming it was a Holocaust, which means it was by their own people, then it is their own people that should be paying the victims, or maybe the family of the victims, reparations. But it's their own people that should be paying this. Their own people are still around. Shouldn't the Rothschilds be paying reparations to the Holocaust victims? You could somewhat say that they had by starting this new nation known as Israel, because it was the Rothschilds who were behind that to create that. no real doubt about that. And they even financed things and hid the financing of things, such as the Supreme Court of Israel. They paid to do that, so you can say, well, that they paid, but all they did was pay to extend and continue the evilness. And as we discovered in the book of Ezra, that second temple built to Allah and dedicated using Holocaust, and that it's all about chaos and confusion and duality and the two sides fighting together amongst one another, and that there's always somebody in the background pulling out profit, pulling out profit, pulling out profit, which tells you the powers that be, including the Rothschilds, do not particularly want this to stop. Now, there may be another big sacrifice. There may be another big sacrifice of Jews in Jerusalem or Israel. Or it could just be other people. Typically it would be them, but if we know what it is to expect what it is that they're doing, will they do it? They might. Might. But nevertheless, the point of these videos about the book of Ezra, and the point of it is the history and what had happened, and it was written and it was put there so people would know what had happened, and it was changed and it was altered in order to hide it. Why? Other than the fact that the perpetrators are ashamed? Other than the fact that it would be discovered that the religion is evil? That could be. Now, if they had total control over everybody like they did during the time of Ezra, right, they wouldn't care if it was public because they would just do it. And that, in actuality, if you think really hard, think about the condition of the United States and how fascism is really trying to get a foothold in the United States the same way that it did in Hitler's Germany in World War II. Hitler was able to get away with what he did and snatch up all them innocent victims in order to torture and murder them and rob them. That it would happen here also. Education is the key. Knowledge and education is the key. And then the next thing to do is action. Start with knowledge. Start learning by what's going on so you know how to act and how to deal with what's going on. I suppose that's all I get to say right now.